2, 1. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Word on the Ave. How's everybody doing? Been gone for a little while, but we can't stay gone for too long. Got to come back to chop it up with everybody and uh, give y'all some knowledge, and hopefully we can learn something too. So
Happy New Year to you busters.
What'd you say?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you busters.
Happy New Year, yeah. Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas break, good New Year's. And we on to some bigger and better things, man, some new things. But, of course, as always, in the media and around the country, there's always some nonsense, something that can be expounded on and something that can be learned from. So I think this is a good opportunity. Before we start, I want everybody to introduce yourself if you want to.
Hola, hola. The one, the only Lauren Jones. Good evening, people. Good evening, good people.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody, this is Toya. Excited to get into this. Hey, everybody, this is Toya. I'm excited to be here on Word in the Ave and to chat about, things that's happening. I saw a meme the other day that said 2021 told 2020 to hold its beer. Wait a second, hold my beer. I was like, that's about right.
Let's show what's happening. Yeah. We off to a rocky start. Y'all already know my name's Corey Gilmore. Corey in fame on Facebook. So you see, we off to a nutty start to the year. Had a whole debacle at Capitol Hill during the what do you call it, the Electoral College
election certification.
Yes, certification. Bunch of Trump. Now we have been knowing about this for weeks in advance, but the time came, January 6th came, and Trump supporters showed up at the Capitol to protest the decision that was made, citing that they believed that the election was rigged, which was sparked on by Donald Trump, basically from election night all the way leading up to January 6th. Now, they said all throughout the weeks leading up that they be releasing the Kraken. What's that lady's name? It's that lady's name that was talking about they'll be releasing the Kraken, and they had concrete evidence that what was going on had changed the course of the election. But in all actuality, nothing ever really came up out of it. They had some weird looking videos that could be questioned, but they really weren't able to come up with anything. Also, they threw a lot of conspiracy theory in there, stuff that was definitely unproven, to the point that even Trump's news channel, Newsmax, who he went to because he got into it with Fox News because they didn't want to, he felt that they were going against him, of course, just like, mainstream media, these leaders and elites, they want their mainstream site to go with whatever agenda that they have going on. And when Fox News wasn't going with the program, Trump turned on them. And so he went to Newsmax, and Newsmax even had to admit that a lot of the information that was being spread was was a bunch of conspiracy. And they had to, because they're trying to pass this, they're trying to file a lawsuit within the court of law, but it's going to hurt their fight. So let's get it started. What do y'all think about this siege that they call it, this insurrection that happened on Capitol Hill, where all the Trump supporters swarmed it, climbing walls, busting down windows, were able to get into the Capitol, taking podiums, kicking their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk and everything. You had the crazy looking guy with the Viking looking shit that was on that was sitting on the podium. What do y'all think about this whole debacle and everything that happened with it? Anyone
I mean,
could go first.
where do you start? I mean, I think as like watching it was like watching like a bad movie, like White House Down, like one of those movies that's just like, is this like America? Is this real? It just was like, I think it was just surreal. I think I started watching it, and the more I watched it, I just got more and more angry, just because of the hypocrisy of, just this summer, we were calling Black Lives Matter protests terrorist and looting, and when the looting starts, the shooting starts, all the stuff, that was being said, and you got people literally at the Capitol, like beating up police, like swarming police, like that's like taxpayer stuff they destroyed. Like, like you should be even more mad. Like, of course but they say like the looting from Black Lives Matter, like you messed up small businesses, but this is like this is like taxpayer stuff that y'all went in and destroyed. It just was just so ignorant. Just was so ignorant on so many parts, because it was like, what were you gonna do when you were gonna interrupt that Senate hearing? What was nobody had a plan. Like, what were you going to use? You were going to try to intimidate people to change their mind about the votes. Like obviously no strategy was used. And the second part is like, how did y'all get those guns on the plane? Those that took a plane. Did y'all mail those ahead of time, or did you pack them in your, like, how did you? There's just so many questions. So many questions.
Yeah.
And just the boldness is to be on social media with your whole face out, whole face, taking selfies, feet propped up, like you think Trump was never gonna show up there, and he's not gonna bail you out.
Yeah, and he said he would be there with them. Where was he at?
He was there in spirit.
Hide it.
Yeah. all the guys that kept stroking the whole thing going up. What's his name? The Missouri governor. What's his name?
Oh, Holly.
Josh Holly.
Ted Cruz and all of them. Yeah, and none of them.
It's like Ted Cruz. I heard you talk. You said there's 39%. So go outside and talk to your 39%. Like, they out there. They out there waiting for y'all. So go talk to y'all 39% and talk to them with the facts. I don't know. That's my take. Somebody can jump in.
What you think, Lauren?
Man, man, it's what happens when you don't whoop your kids, man. They be climbing on people's shit.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you what was the most surprising thing to me about the whole thing is the fact that you could tell from start to finish that it was an orchestrated job. Like, when you see people on the inside letting people in, it's like sneaking into the movie theater or something like that. Like, hey man, back door, second exit. I'm just gonna push the door open and stick a rock in there, and then y'all go ahead and roll on in. It's just, that's what was crazy, is that you could tell that it was planned.
Mm-hmm.
Now some of the shenanigans, of course, was just people just wanting to be a part of some nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Who starts climbing walls? Who starts doing that type of stuff like that?
When you see it steps like 10 feet, it's steps. But the pictures don't show it some steps. They didn't have to climb a wall.
Yeah. So that's just some ignorant people that was like, man, I'm showing up, and then the whole thing with the guns, it's interesting, Toy. I know you said, how did you even get guns on the plane? You can actually, if you have a carrying case, you can load it with your with whatever you can't have it as a carry-on, but you can actually, if it's in a carrying case, you can actually take it on the plane. As long as you check your bag, you can actually have a gun. You know what I'm saying? You just can't carry it on, but you can actually have it in your luggage that you check. As long as it's locked in a case, you can have it. You can travel with one, so to say. So just a bunch of shenanigans. I mean, I totally, I'm all for, a peaceful protest, that's logical, that's actually, planned and
Out
orchestrated.
out.
But actually, I think this was actually very, very thought out. I mean,
I guess
that's
so
the
because
only,
it
that's,
been circulating for weeks. People knew
yeah,
about it.
that's the only reason they were able to get as far as they did because it was orchestrated. So I'll give them that much. But
I,
for you
I,
to
I, I, I don't know. I don't think it was all the way thought out. I think it
no,
was
no, 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 no,
orchestrated.
it
It
was
wasn't thought
thought
out,
out. Now
huh?
you only say that because that's what happens when you invite your cousin that you or somebody invited your cousin that wasn't supposed to come.
Yeah.
That's
That cousin that just got out of jail.
yeah, that's what that is. But I think that overall it was planned to get it was orchestrated well enough to get them in the building to allow them to do what they did.
Yeah.
You got old Otis, what I'm saying, trying to take people in another direction. You know what I'm
Well, hats
saying?
off to him. You know what? You know what?
Oh,
That's an American hero. Like that's real talk right there. While we
Yeah.
joking, he says he protected some people. So
He
and then
he just
just
turned
just
he turned the wrong way. He didn't he turned the wrong way on accident. Yeah, that's old Otis right there, man. So yeah, I mean, it was total nonsense, and I'm very, very much a person that I like to hold individuals accountable for their actions. Now I do know that Trump started this goddamn dumpster fire, that led to all this, but all those people are held accountable for their own individual actions as well, so
the ones that they
so
catch,
it has it has to
the ones
go.
that they caught. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to go both ways. It has to go both ways. We can point a finger at Trump, but we also have to point a finger at each individual because
yeah.
ultimately they made the decision to carry out, everything that transpired. So you have to point a finger in both directions. But we knew it was coming. I mean, hell, even
Didn't.
before the election, he was talking about how the election was rigged, and
Oh yeah,
A lot of the
he started.
Republicans
Yeah.
were, yeah, they were like, this is why Republicans didn't come out and vote
Well,
because you were saying it
he
was
started.
rigged.
He knew that on purpose because he started that way before the election happened. He started that in
Hmm.
the summer. And one thing about him, he was very clear about everything he was going to do. And he said that he was going to um, throw shade and doubt.
Hmm.
But it
Yep.
started with the mail-in ballots and tampering
Yeah.
with
Yep.
the post office, like way before, and then putting that hint of doubt. He planted that seed like
Hmm.
almost 6 months ago about
Well,
the
he's the
election
Yeah.
he's
and
the
how
one
they can't be
he's the
trusted.
one that
And
told he's the one that told his supporters don't use the mail-in ballot.
Hmm.
Told them
Yep.
don't use it. And
Yep.
then he was surprised when
Yeah.
everything turned out the way it was.
Hmm.
yeah, you
Yeah.
got people like, wait, you telling your people to, I'm gonna go ahead and early vote because
Yeah.
we know
Right.
the type of mentality of people who are connected with you. We don't go ahead and early vote,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and just
Eh,
because like we know here locally our election, like my husband works closely with the Johnson County election. We know how secure. We know like the process and how they like it's honestly one of the most secure elections that ever happens. How they have it down to a science about counting ballots and votes and things like that. And so that's why like we had faith. We took it straight to elections off just because we knew the mail was running slow. But
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
It's-
it's hard, because Corey, I know you and I had this conversation a little bit, but you know, I everything they did was wrong when it came to the actual destruction. But I didn't even care as much about the destruction of the building as the planned attack that they had on certain members
Mhm.
of Congress. That's where the real problem came in. The dude that tied the news. That was supposed to be for. I think it was supposed to be for Pence. That's who it was supposed to be for. The news was supposed to be for Mike Pence. That's who it was supposed to be for. And then, they was going to snatch up Pelosi because they talked about their plan to take out the top three people, Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, and somebody else. And
the Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was. And I was just like, that's when you taking it too far. When you putting your plan is to put people's lives at risk. That's when you've taken it too far.
But it's way more than that. It's way more than that though. Think about like the privilege that a whole group of people, like the rules implied to a whole set of people who were just complaining about the rules just in the summer. It started off with, I was mad at Kaepernick because he was peacefully protesting, he didn't doing it right. And then Black Lives Matters came out, which the majority of Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. It was the cops that were instigating people. And then you come to this situation where it's just total opposite. Like, what you remember Black Lives Matter posts? They had a National Guard holding down the Capitol. Here, they knew about it, didn't have any security, and these people were allowed to go. Like, come on, that was Black Lives Matter, would have been bloodshed.
But that was
pop everywhere. No,
that was also another political move, though. That was also another political move because the additional security was asked, it was requested, and they were told no. We will not provide any additional.
Right.
So it was
white people, because white people clearly are not violent, even though they have a whole history of terrorizing people from going back to millions of years ago. Clearly, white people are not violent.
Here's a question. I know you had made a statement a second ago in regards to what they did or whatever, but they didn't want to play by the rules. That's what you were talking about. But I'm not going to say the question I would ask is them not playing by the rules. How is it only different than something like the Nat Turner revolt? Is it only different because Nat Turner was fighting for, like, what's the difference? Explain to me what the difference is.
It's a huge difference.
That's what I'm saying. Explain it to the people though, because some people will say, "What is the difference?" Those people decided that because slavery was technically a rule, a law of the land back in those days, and Nat Turner.
What do you mean the difference between Nat Turner and social justice and first off, what are you protesting? What are you protesting at the?
What he's saying.
What are they protesting?
Because they're protesting the results of the election.
Yeah, what a lot of people have their perception. A lot of people have their perception. A lot of things are, a lot of things are subjective when it comes to different things and people's own personal fights, whether one side or the other agrees with it, right? Now, especially when there's no debate, because, a lot of times there's no debate. There's no debate on anything when it comes to mainstream media, and it's supposed to be like that. Mainstream media, and when you're talking about the CNNs, the Foxes, MSNBCs, or anything, they're not put there to be that. They can't even be sued for putting out false information. They can't be sued because they're entertainment. They're listed as strictly entertainment. There's nothing real about any of the media sources. So there's no debating or actually, a public debate to where everybody can see and you can say, and you can make a person, poke holes in their different arguments. And so I guess what Warren is asking from their perception, because we can all three of us can agree that it was entirely flawed. Every movement that they made, but it was still supposed to, be an insurrection of sorts.
But the main difference is they went with an agenda to cause harm. It wasn't non-violent.
Who?
Yes. Here.
Who?
Sorry. There you go.
Who went? Say this. Who? Which group are you talking about? You talking about this group that went with the intent to harm?
Yeah.
And Nat Turner did
When
not.
you show up with zip ties, I'm not talking about Nat. Why are we talking about Nat
Okay.
Turner? You brought that up. Like we talking Nat Turner. That's the whole revolt about social justice. That was like slavery. That's not even. It's not relevant to this situation. We're comparing two alleged protests. Like one was we contesting somebody's like life, social justice. We are saying like this is wrong and we need to do something about it. Last week, y'all mad because y'all person lost. That's not social justice. Y'all mad because y'all person lost. Y'all y'all showing up with zip ties and stuff and plots to kidnap people because your person lost.
Oh, but listen to this. Listen to this though.
Because your person lost.
I don't want to get too far off because there's different points I want to touch on this. But social justice is subjective. It is a subjective thing. Just like y'all remember we were on that Zoom call and I talked about what positives and negatives. Things that are social justice. Justice to one person isn't justice to another. You know what I'm saying? We can go into the morality. We can go into different moralities and talk about what's good and bad. And we can talk about what comes out of and why these things are put in place and why it's there because of the repercussions of what it can cause. You know what I'm saying? But
okay.
And that's getting into a whole nuanced argument right there. But I know what you're saying.
The main focus of social, come on, let's talk social injustice. The main factors about social justice, let's go back to the bigger buckets that we know about: voting rights, civil rights, social justice. A whole man was murdered in front of everybody with a knee on his neck. Those are all things. Those are general themes of social justice that even like the most logical person would be like, yeah, that's wrong. So let's just put those in that bucket. So we don't need to. I don't think we need to break that down anymore. So
we're just playing around in the semantics right now.
Yeah,
that's all.
So Black Lives
that's all it was.
Black Lives Matter movement. That was to say, hey, this is wrong. We need to address the aggressiveness of the police reform, all those things. That was the spirit behind Black Lives Matter, like Black Lives Matter hashtag, regardless of. If you want to go on the Wikipedia where everybody does and figure out their beliefs, what is the main message that we're trying to get across? Just for the sake of this conversation today, was about Black Lives Matter and police reform. The shenanigans of last week was because your person lost.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Your person lost.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't because he lost. It's because he planted the seed that it wasn't a fair loss.
That's okay. Semantics. He lost, so they're going to protest because he lost. Let's just
Sure. I told you.
And that's not semantics. That's actual details, and we got to deal with the details if we have.
They protesting him losing. Now, I mean, we know why they were there.
They're protesting because they're under the. Hold on.
They're under the influence of Trump.
Under the assumption that he lost unfairly. That's the whole entire reason.
But they still protesting that he lost. They are protesting their person has lost. Black Lives Matter was trying to bring awareness to a real issue that is known. So that's first difference. Second difference is the same people who were like, if you loot and you riot, you're gonna go to jail and you're gonna be prosecuted and you're gonna be all these things, allowed a whole bunch of people to get way past what any other place Black Lives Matter would have ever got. So again, it's about white privilege. It's about white privilege too, and which is long issue in America again.
Hold on. Let me. Geraldine Marie Lewis. What do you mean by that? We have been BEN.
You want to join? You should join me.
And none of you care None of you care. We need help now, and all you do is play God. There are lives that are tired of that and will take action. I do not agree with what happened. Lives were lost that did not need to. You there, you there to help us all. We hear empty promises with no actual people that did not need to be killed because of what Trump did. Because the system as it is now playing God with their lives. If you want to live like that, pick and see how you survive. Fountain around. Help us. We need the help now. But you guys playing God with your lives. We got. Do y'all know? Do y'all know? Any of y'all know who Geraldine Marie?
Who is that too? Like, what is that about?
Somebody in the comments section. I'm trying to understand because the verbiage is all over the place.
I think what she's trying to say is that the people that stormed the Capitol building basically were they were playing God with lives, but I don't agree with that. Of course, I don't know all of the victims and the role that they played, but let's just take the lady. Let's take the lady that was there that was a former that was military and she died, and I'm like, I would never wish death on some
country.
No, hold on. I would never wish death on somebody, but actions have consequences, and that was just an unfortunate consequence of her actions. I'm sure she didn't go with the intent to die, but anywhere you go, if you know that guns may come out, you may die. Like, I mean,
I don't even talk.
Two people got that. Two people died because they got trampled.
Rest in peace to her.
I need help.
To them, her whatever. But
rest in peace.
and I'm not being funny. Geraldine, I need help. I need punctuation. I need clarity when we type in these message boards so we can really understand where you're coming from and address this. Now, what I think you're saying is, I feel like you're saying that, the government is playing with everybody, playing with everybody's lives, and a lot of people are fed up. That's what I believe.
It's a double standard. It's a total double standard. And think about all the progress that Black Lives Matter tried to get to. We still, we haven't made a lot of progress to this day, but yet a whole group of people can go and storm the Capitol. And
Black Lives Matter.
The fact that
Black Lives Matter is they have a black. I won't put in now the people who protested outside of Black Lives Matter, the different organized protests, like you guys had your own organized protest. That comes from a sincere place. The different people that were doing different things. Black Lives Matter has an ulterior motive, which is not, it's not from Wikipedia. It's not from. It's not.
They're not here, and they're not here to defend themselves. So.
No.
And I think that's part of it, though. Like that the whole message though got lost in people trying to figure out where they got their money from and things like that. The whole point was
they show you. Well, they show you where the money.
To bring awareness to police brutality, and so that's the difference in both of it is a difference between both. Okay, let's not say Black Lives. Let's not say Black Lives Matter. Let's just say the social justice protest.
Hold on, okay. Toy. You gotta let me get my point across. That is not what Black Lives Matter ulterior motive is. They have a hidden agenda said by themselves. You have to study when what's her name? The Patrice Cullors herself said that we are a Marxist organization. We are trained Marxists. We study Karl Marx and what it's all about, and you will understand. Karl Marx is a student of John Hegel, who created the Hegelian dialectic of thesis, antithesis, synthesis, which is basically create the problem, you'll get the reaction to the problem, and here we come with the solution. Because also Karl Marx is the creator of the Communist Manifesto. They want to create, I don't even want to get into all that. You just got to understand.
Yeah, I just say, let's not say Black Lives Matter. Let's just say the social protests that happened over the summer. If you want to break it down to semantics, let's talk about the social protests.
No, but
because that is what they want you to do is to get distracted. That's That's why the movie haven't went too far, because
you have to
we got
understand
distracted
all those
based
things.
on shenanigans.
Hold on, no, those aren't shenanigans, because you have to understand those things to be able to differentiate the things that you're seeing on your television. So all of those details are needed information. You have to understand. You have to understand what you're dealing with and why what you're seeing is going on. See, there's a reason why they don't put out certain details and why they don't tend to educate people, especially on even what's going on in the city. Why are, yes, stuff is done wrong, yeah, but how do you tackle it? Even Joe Biden said this. That's why he called out the way that everybody was going in that Zoom call that got leaked. And he was calling out all the black leaders because he said himself, the way that y'all are going about this is hurting what we're trying to do. You don't sit up there, you're saying defund the police and different things like that. You have to be able to understand the laws in each city and what the laws that are on the books, just like the Jacob Blake situation. You got to understand what's on your books, and you have to fight to get those laws specifically taken out. There even has to be nuance within the whole situation, knowing what happened, because we can tend to just get fired up by the news, and we don't even know what happened within the situation. You had that thing that happened in Detroit, where the boy pulled out the gun and shot at the cop, and the bullet barely missed his head, and the cop shot back. But before that video could even get out, the video came out 2 days before, they had already torn up the streets. Now, albeit it was a lot of white liberalists that did it, but still the streets were already torn up. And of course, here come the rest of the black people follow right behind it. We're gonna tear up shit too. So you have to understand why the media is playing the game, that it's a chess game.
So
and all of it is
let's just I'm not saying that none of that is true. Again, that's not the bigger picture. Like, if you want to go, we can go on these tangents and go on these rabbit holes all day. And I'm not saying what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is not true.
It comes that comes with the stigma of, because I understand what you're saying. When everybody says tangents, rabbit holes, they say conspiracy theory. See what that does for the audience. No, and I'm not saying that's what you mean, but we got to be careful when we use that language, because what that says to the audience, how people receive that as, it's not important information.
It's not credible, but it's not. But for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about why people are upset about what happened at the Capitol.
Yeah.
For the sake of this conversation. So if you want to say a matter of semantic, we can take Black Lives Matter out for the second and say the social justice protest that happened or in the fall, what people are upset about or is how they were handled. So that's the issue on the table, is how and why and how they were handled. And they were like in the double standard that the rules only apply to certain people. That's why all these people that's why all these people that are getting caught by the FBI are in their feelings, because they're like, whoa, we didn't, those rules don't apply to us. Like, we're white.
What did they expect? They should
exactly. But when you have had a whole life of living privilege, and that happens to other people, not us. We're not in that, and when you can judge and you can do that, I mean, that's the reality. So why, I mean, it's pretty clear to us, logical people, like, yeah, you stormed the Capitol, you did stuff you shouldn't do, so there's consequences. But when you have a whole life of privilege and seen it being done, you don't understand. It's a whole different mentality. That's what it comes down to.
And I do agree with that to a certain extent. I think another way to look at this is just another example of what can happen to a mind that's misguided,
But it's so much more to that, being misguided. Yes, that's one part. Like, you feed into that shenanigans of somebody who tells you to come fight the crowd. I got your back, and then leaves you. But it's more to that. Like, I can't say it any more than I just said it. It comes down to
we can't make
the double standard that the government. But
give me some time on this.
And I can support you on a double standard from a government perspective, just because
Government only?
we no. Listen to what I'm saying though. When more security was requested, it was ignored. Like Trump was like, nah, we not sending no extra security. Extra security was requested by the governor, but they was like, yeah, nah, we not sending you no more people. You know, you just gotta fend for yourself. So that's more of a corruption thing though.
But even dealing with that, we have to let them sort that type of fight out, because what we're trying to do is how we're receiving, because we all know we don't know what this could be. This could be a total psyop, which is, go to the U.S. Army Go Army page. They'll tell you about psychological operations. It could be a total psyop from, you don't know what was planned, how this could play out behind the scene. We just take what we see, on the screen at face value or whatnot. It's a whole entire game that's being played. You know what I'm saying? From the start, it's a silly situation because, of course, they went there. There's no unless their intent was to cause a ruckus and tear shit up. I mean, then they were successful, and they got what they were asking for, and they get the reception that they were asking for. Now, it's completely hypocritical, and like I said, I call out both sides on hypocritical stuff. Completely hypocritical when you was just well, we'll leave it at the protesters. We won't even bring Trump into it. When you're cheering for a man and the guy because you clearly went there for Trump, but he said, 1 year for burning the flag, 10 years for desecrating the statue, or attacking the Portland Capitol building, 10 years for that. But here you got your same supporters. You know what I'm saying, out there, and what are they doing? Tearing up the Capitol building. They flying Confederate flags.
And classified mail. They took mail from somebody's desk and was bragging. They took mail.
That was Nancy Pelosi's light. They took Nancy Pelosi's light bill.
No, they took.
I'm just playing.
But I ain't worried about. You know what? Capitol Hill is home of some of the biggest criminals in this country. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about them. I'm not advocating for the violence against. I'll never do that. But they're home of the biggest criminals ever. But I'm showing you, the dichotomy. They had a problem with Kaepernick kneeling and different things like that. But here you are out here with a Confederate flag, a flag that's not the American flag. That's not the American flag. So this whole thing.
They don't even know their history.
Yeah. But these are.
Yeah, like you got your feet propped up on Pelosi's desk, but Kaepernick can't kneel silently.
So let me ask a question, because I think this is the big thing that the question that everybody wants answered is, how are all these people going to be prosecuted? Because I think we all know the way that the law is right now. If you could pay a good lawyer, they can get you off of just about anything. And I think that's part of the real issue that needs to be addressed holistically, is that the law
how does the crowd need to be prosecuted?
Yeah, the individuals. I'm not talking about the crowd. I'm talking about because you have to prosecute individuals. And that's hard. That's hard.
I personally don't care. I don't care what they come up with when it comes to those individuals.
You should.
Whatever's in the law.
We should care.
Why?
We should care. Because you have to have some type of evidence, some type of example. Because what if this happens again? Like, laws are created because things happen. Laws are almost always reactionary to something. In most cases, they're reactionary to something happening. So, are the people that you don't find on video, are they not going to get prosecuted because you're not able to locate them? Are the people that you are able to locate? Are they going to be? Are they going to be? Are they going to be punished in the eyes of the law? And a law that and a law that and a law that's not even necessarily created. See, when you hear Trump say stuff like, you should get a year for burning the flag. Is that in the law book? You should get 10 years for destroying the Capitol building. Are those in the law book?
It's in the Constitution. The Constitution has
Is it? I'm asking the question. Are those real laws that are actual laws, or was he just talking out the side of his mouth?
I believe that there's laws for each one. What the actual punishment is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But the way to do it, because they have put out warrants. The guy that had his feet kicked up, I think he was found in Kentucky. They got him. Yeah, they arrested him. The question is, how will it be compared to what happened, in prior situations? The people who were rioting during going outside to protest this summer, and also, a couple years ago when the women, when they were protesting Kavanaugh, when they showed up at the Capitol building and were occupying each floor and everything, and there was about 150 women that were arrested. Now that's something that should be, it's like, how are they arrested? Everybody there arrested at the scene, but that didn't happen in this case. You know what I'm saying? So those are questions that have to be asked.
But that was part of the orchestration of the whole thing. Me telling you cannot have additional security, I was already setting you up.
Oh yeah. It's going to be orchestrated.
Yeah, because it comes back to white people are not dangerous. Like, we don't need it because white people are not dangerous.
I won't even.
Only those minorities and blacks are the ones who need the extra security.
Well, I think
clearly the police know when to use aggressive force and not.
Well, they've been driving home the point for the last few years that they've been saying, and it's not, it's inaccurate. Like I said, to speak on a generalization, I think the question we want is, can white people be as dangerous as, black or anybody else and stuff like that? And it's
is that even a question?
Right. No, I'm saying, but that's not how they're presenting it. It's been presented.
Is that even a question? Go back to Native Americans. Back to slavery.
That's understood. That's understood. But we're talking.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Rhetorical
That's
question.
understood.
Rhetorical.
Hey, trust me. I know. In every civilization where white folks have dwelled and it's all been screwed up. And that's not to say not everything they
mass killings.
Yeah, mass killings. That's how they've achieved
what they did to the Jewish people. Like, come on.
No,
that's where the fight always goes back to, though. When you are in position to control the narrative, you control the narrative.
But that's what's happening now. See, because it's also they're exploiting the pain of people, you know what I'm saying, especially black people here in America. And now it's been shifted because, see, that's where a lot of this gets born from too also. Because especially when we're talking about the things that go on, and we can talk, if y'all got time, we can talk a little bit about the Central. I know we've been
I need to hop off in a few minutes.
For about an hour. Yeah, this it's things like this, like, what am I trying to say? It sparks. Hey, when you're talking about centering and when you're talking about shifting it, not making it equal, but we'll say, okay, all white people are bad. All white people are bad. It's just the right wing. It's just the right wing. It's just the Republican. Well, understand they're seeing this too. That's why it gets tricky, because when everybody put it on, they start banning Donald Trump. But Donald Trump didn't specifically say tear this and that up. He said be there. He said what they did was
come on. I mean, are you on Parler? Have you seen the stuff that's going on Parler? Are you on Parler? Do you see the messages that are going on Parler?
Oh, LaToya, stuff like that is gonna happen. It happens the same on Twitter.
But you know what? It started before Trump. I would say it did start. He just send it all home. But it started before Trump. I mean, but the stuff that he's done is I'm not gonna even go there. I'm not gonna even go there. It's craziness. It's
But
craziness.
it's printed.
But people are mad because
printed
of the double standard. Back to the topic of the conversation.
Hold on.
People are mad
But there
about
is
the double
exactly.
standard that.
But that's
and-
on both.
Okay, both sides.
That's
Okay,
on
both sides are wrong, right? But come on, who was at that Capitol? What side was at that
I
Capitol?
understand that, but
What
I
side was at the
understand that.
Capitol?
They were wrong. We've already
With zip
identified
ties
that they were
and
wrong.
guns and beating cops.
We've
After
identified that it's wrong.
they
but
create the hashtag Blue Lives Matter.
Hold on. But you've got to understand where that comes from. A lot of it comes from, and we can't just sit there and we're not in the minds of everybody. We don't understand, just like we try to put everybody, we don't like when they make generalizations about Black people. So we can't make generalizations about white people. I can't make a generalization about a person who has a liberal mindset, a left-wing mindset, right-wing, Trump supporter. I can't make that generalization because I'm not.
You can make some generalizations. You can make some. Come on. It's so much, so many receipts out there.
What receipt? Have you talked to these people? You're talking about what they get and what they show you on media. And you saw what they posted on Parler.
Actually, yes.
Have they shown you what's been posted? Have they shown you what's been posted from other people's Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts for people who are side with left-wing media? That's what I'm saying. We have to be careful about the narratives that we put out because we create.
They wrote their own narrative on last Tuesday.
I'm understanding.
They wrote their own narrative, so there's really nothing that.
Generalization. I'm talking about the generalization and where it comes from, because now people start. Oh, my voice is getting. We're not getting a fair shake and different things like that.
But how was that relevant to the incident at the Capitol? I thought we were talking about how was that generation? How is that relevant?
Comes from. That's where a lot of it comes from. I'm not saying all of it, but that's where a lot of it comes from. Think about how, even when you're talking about the censorship, and we'll talk about the home because we've been here for a minute, but we can get into that because there's going to be a lot of fallout from that also when it comes to the Trump, the censorship. Like I said, I'm not going to shed a tear for him, but you got to understand the precedent that is set. One thing that I'll give to, yes, generalizations, Craig Wells. I'm talking about generalizations because you can't generalize. We don't like when we're doing that. Just like Black women don't like when we.
But it's not a generalization. Like the receipts are there. It's not a generalization. Have you been in? Yes, I know Trump. I know Trump supporters personally, and I know the stuff they I know what they think.
And I know Trump supporters too. And there's a lot of different reasonings. There's a lot of Black people that are Trump supporters, and they have their reasons. There's
That's
a lot
unfortunate.
Of them there's a lot of them that don't agree with them. They think he's ignorant, but there's something politics. Everybody who's even dealing with politics has their own. Most people have their own personal reasons. It's not for the betterment. It's not for the betterment of everybody or anything. And I'm not saying, it is selfish. I'm not saying it's bad or good or bad, but people are in politics for their own personal reasons. Even when we talked about it in that last conversation, didn't you admit that yourself, Latoya? We have our own personal reasons. We don't care what happens. We don't care what happens in the future. We got to get ours and, and benefit from it now.
That's not how I vote, but yeah, that's not how I vote, but yes. I vote for the future. I'm voting for my children and my grandchildren. That's how I vote. And the things that I don't necessarily vote for things that are right now, but.
So I think that, when you look at this situation that happened at Capitol Hill.
Hold on, Lauren. Hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Receipts. It says not a generalization. The FBI has receipts, but those are on
exactly. Exactly. There's receipts.
Exactly. The receipts are on TV, but we're not talking.
They're not just on TV. They got receipts from the people who called into work that day. They
hold
got
on,
receipts from the plane ticket.
Latoya, listen, you have to listen. Listen to me. Just listen to me real quick. We're not talking about the people that were out climbing walls, tearing up stuff. We said Trump supporters, right? We talking about Trump supporters. Just like that wasn't the whole crowd doing that. That wasn't the whole crowd. And even talking about the reason why they're doing it. People have their own personal reasons. We don't know. That's what I'm talking about when I say, generalization, because
but we're talking about the incident that happened on Tuesday. And I think we can generalize the incident that happened on Tuesday. I think we're safe to do that.
What we can generalize.
I think we're safe to do that.
No, what we can generalize. What we can generalize is that they were Trump supporters. We got receipts of that. They were there. Most of them were there for Trump. That's what we have receipts for. Other than that, we're just making.
They were all there for Trump.
They were all
making speculation. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what we have receipts on that. But I'm talking about when you're talking about the comparing, because what if they sit up there and make a generalization about what happened with Black Lives Matter, just like they did when they're not Black Lives Matter, but all the protests that were happening this summer. Not everybody out there, like you said, the majority of the people were out there peacefully protesting. But then you had the fools that were going and starting burning it down, businesses and shit.
We're comparing apples to hubcaps at this point. We're comparing apples to hubcaps. It's
the same thing because it's a level of insurrection based on beliefs. Y'all not like, how are you not understanding that? Like, even think about if anything, it makes more sense. It would make more sense. I have more of an issue with burning down businesses and different things versus attacking a fucking Capitol Hill where the guys are full of criminals. Yes, it's taxpayer dollars, but it's public. And we talk about hold on. And we talk about taxpayer dollars as if it's something we
get that. That's actually a good point that's getting lost. That's a good point. However, the big issue is the privilege of a whole group of people to go and storm the Capitol when the last protest didn't even make it to the stairs because, you know what I mean? Because they were seen as a threat way before.
This is what I want Black people
they were talked to. So like that's the bigger picture too. Like if you watch that, like I was so angry watching that. Like it wasn't media that skewed the narrative. We all saw it live happening, what was going on. And it comes down to privilege. We need to talk about that. That's the part that's missing.
But Latoya, listen to this. You've been here for we've all been here for over 30 years. Ain't nothing changed. We know what the dichotomy is between Black people and white folks. We can't keep using excuses. Somebody's got to die for something. If we want something that we have to take and we know that we're receiving the bad end of the stick, it's not going to be the same for white people going on to the Capitol stairs. That's understood. We already know how that's going to happen. But it's got to happen. What's stopping it from happening? It has to happen. If you believe in something, you have to fight for it and you have to die for it. And a lot of that doesn't even have nothing to do with, the whole overall picture, but it's been a conversation that I keep hearing repeated over and over again. So what are y'all saying?
Because it's now becoming aha for everybody. It's something that we have lived for everything.
Hold on. What I'm saying is,
life, and now it's aha to people who are not minority, and now like be getting awareness so we can start fixing it. That's the problem. When other people see it and they don't walk in our shoes,
But there's been awareness, and nothing will change. That's what I'm saying. And even with that, when I talk, listen to what I'm about to say. You're not being receptive of what I'm trying to. I'm on your side. Listen, I'm on your side. Please be receptive. What I'm talking about. We're talking about this is, we're playing chess here. And we got to understand that there's a lot of different things, a lot of different forces that work behind the scenes. There's a lot of psychological operations. We don't know what they're trying to do to get people to jump out the window and cause this and that and have more hatred for the other side and different things. What I'm saying is we can't keep doing that. We understand where we live in this country. What is my argument you're about to hear? There's nothing about being controversial, Craig Wells. We're trying to bring logic here. These conversations have to be had. That's the problem that's a huge problem that we're having with Black folks, that we're not having a real conversation. We're being condescending to each other because we don't want to hear actual logic about things. Listen to what we're saying. What I'm saying.
What are you saying?
Even with this, you got to stop with that, because you already know the barriers are going to be there as a Black person, right? Are you willing to die for that? Are you willing to die for that? You look at one situation and we say they already know what's going on in the country. Yes, it's going to bring awareness to everybody, right? It's going to bring awareness to, well, not everybody, but more people when these situations start to happen. But now what happens when they decide to make another situation like that happen? How do we know that this is not all being staged to spark this type of tension between each other?
Oh,
so we got
okay. Okay.
So
now
I
you
think,
are going down a path
so
that is
what
like that is quite close to conspiracy right there.
so I think that
That's close to conspiracy right there. Like
no,
saying we are being
so you
trained
don't believe that's possible?
no.
to go down the path.
No,
I
here's
didn't say that's not possible,
Have you
but
ever heard of
those are the
Operation
things
Northwoods?
that distract us from the mission.
No, listen, have you heard of Operation Northwoods? Do you know how the Vietnam War? We're talking about things that are actually on FBI file. These are not things that are conspiracy. We're talking about things that are actually real and can be proven.
This is too much of a rabbit hole.
It's like what I'm talking about.
Corey, I believe you. Corey, I believe everything you're saying. I promise. Exactly. I know you are the most well-read, educated person, but it has to be relevant to the topic.
I'm not.
It has to be relevant to what we're talking about.
No. No, she's not. She's not saying you are. She's not saying you are.
I just try to use what I try to think about situations, because this is. Here's how you got to use it, because you've gone down a rabbit. Hold on, Lauren. It's not a physical warfare that we're dealing with. Yes. We're dealing with psychological.
Absolutely.
I agree. I read that to an extent, but that's still address what happened. Address the theme that happened on Tuesday.
But I'm saying,
tell me that it wasn't about privilege.
To be a dead horse. That's what happens in a lot of conversations. That was brought up, and this has nothing. This is what happens in a lot of debates and conversations like this with Black people. Black people want you to beat a dead horse, something that's been talked about over and over again. And so let's keep talking about it.
Don't generalize, Corey.
Don't generalize. Just go ahead. Just don't generalize.
Yeah, I'm making it, but it is a generalization. I'm making a generalization.
Sure. Okay.
But
here's what it comes down to,
I just want to say one more thing. When it comes to that storming the Capitol or storming someplace, you already know that there's going to be a barrier. That should not mean nothing. If your issue is that serious, you got to be willing to die for it. I don't give a damn what's happening to the white people. White people may do the same thing and not one of them get killed. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you.
Yes, it does.
You wake up in the morning Black. They wake up white. They wake up white. No.
We got off topic.
Latoya, are you white? Are you white?
No, I'm not.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a whole other issue. Yeah. You have a fight. You can't force somebody to join your fight, right? You can't force nobody to join your fight, and you have to see it my way. See, but that's what's happening a lot today. You got a lot of people that are trying to force their beliefs on somebody against their will, whether it's wrong or right.
Yeah,
so we should just gaslight them then.
No, you have to be willing. And I'm just dealing with the whole Capitol, and they keep saying, no, Melvin, the conversation hasn't gone left because it has something to do. It was stated within the conversation. See, what I wanted to do was
the conversation went left when you brought in the Vietnam War. That's when the conversation went
No.
And left for
No,
it.
see.
The conversation left for you riding the
Y'all have
Vietnam
to
War.
understand comparison.
So
Y'all have to understand comparison.
here's what I
just
say,
like
because
It's
here's
just
what I'll
like when
say.
you using a
Here's
metaphor.
here's what I'll say,
No,
because
it's
I
like when you
understand
use
where you're trying to go.
metaphors.
No, I understand where you're trying to go. And
No, Lauren.
I've said it too. I've said the same thing you said, is
What?
in order for this to be a fair comparison, we have to be willing to take the same steps to see if we get the same results.
No. The conversation goes left because we tend to keep diving into the semantics without understanding where a person's come from.
It's too layered.
No, exactly. That's why the comparisons have to be understood.
It's super layered.
But
it's the things are still the same.
Hold on. Exactly. The understanding has to be understood. Latoya, we're taking it because we're having this conversation. Me and Lauren understand what we're talking about when we say that there's different things that have been set up to spark this. There's a lot of things that are set up to spark tension. It's pre-planned. It's not just conspiracy theory. We're talking about actual FBI files. Think about it's even when I was talking about what's going on with what's a possibility. I'm not making assertions. I'm saying always have that a possibility, understanding that it could happen. Just like when we're talking about with COVID-19. Read what happened in San Francisco in 1950, and it got
left.
And they didn't understand it. Huh?
Left. Stay
I'm
on top.
About the Capitol.
No, it's not.
The Capitol.
See, y'all not understanding what
Incident.
I'm saying, man.
And it's Capitol with an O, not with an A.
No, but it has to be understood. How else are you going to understand hypocrisy? How else are you going to understand hypocrisy? Hypocrisy means that it was another situation to where the response was this way, and y'all responded like this, but here we are doing the same thing. You didn't say hypocrisy when I'm talking about a statue or something, even though it's along the same lines. We're talking about the federal government. So it is the same thing. It's not left. It's not hypocrisy. It's not hypocrisy when I'm talking about. Hold on. It's not hypocrisy when I'm talking about a flag versus a building, right? Those are two different things, right? But we're talking about the people that had that carried it out. The people that said that was wrong versus that. You have to have those to leverage against each other so there can be an understanding of what I'm talking about. It's about the government. That's all I'm trying to say. So you have to be able to have the foresight to even understand that. All it is, that's the only reason I'm bringing these up, is to have something. It's like a teaching mechanism. You have to lead people along so they can understand different things like that before we can even start getting into the layered part of the issue. That's all I'm saying.
Be careful though. Be careful when you say that, because if you're going to point a finger at the government and only the government, then you take our responsibility away from the individual. So just be careful when you say that.
I'm not talking about individuals have responsibility also. And remember, Lauren, when I usually do put responsibility on individual, because it's always upon the person who receives the information. There's responsibility on the conveyor of the information, and there's a responsibility on the recipient that they have to go through. They have to do their homework. They have to do what I hear so many people say today. Most people say, when you tell them you have to read this, they don't like reading, and that's understandable. But if you want to be able to fight these things the proper way, you have to read. You have to have an understanding. There has to be a priority, because most people, my mouth is getting so dry, y'all, my bad. That's why I keep wiping my mouth. My mouth getting dry as hell. I probably got white shit all in the front. But you have to find time out of the day. We all working 12-hour shifts, 8 hours, different things like that. Then y'all are parents. It's just me and my wife here. I don't have kids. Y'all are parents. So y'all got to tend to the kids and other different things. Latoya, you have a business. So there's not much time to even go through the information and even decipher. It's so much that you have to read. A lot of the stuff that I'm talking about comes from years. It's not something that's overnight. It's years of going through this information. And so, we just got to be careful, when we're going through that,
I can respect and agree with the majority of what you're saying. I think when the minute you add a bunch of layers to something, you have to address what layer you want to peel back first. Like, what layer do I want to peel back first? Because it is multi-layered. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this. You could take this situation and then apply it to things that have transpired in the past, things that may transpire in the future as well. And so I think the goal in this conversation should be to say, okay, how do we address the situation that happened at the Capitol building, and how should it be addressed in totality? And I think the first thing you have to say, and this is where you have to start with all conversations in this particular manner, is when you get to the point where you have to punish and prosecute, do the laws protect one group and leave another group unprotected, right? Because let's just go ahead. Well, yeah, let's just go ahead and play for a little bit.
You talking about you talking about the law on the books or the individual person?
Yes, sir. I'm talking about the laws on the books when you go to look at each individual to prosecute each individual. Because let's go ahead and play for a minute. Let's say that this was a group of Black people that did
like 5 minutes too.
Let's just say it was a group of Black people that operated in this manner. Does the law leave that group does the law leave the Black people unprotected but protect the white people? And we're just going to say that. And if we're going to say that, then what we have to do, that's beautiful, nephew. That's the world we should be living in, ain't it? If the rules leave that group a certain group unprotected, then we need to address the laws. And that's where all of this circles back to, is that a lot of minority groups under the eyes of the law have been left unprotected, while and I'm not going to say white people, I am going to say the rich and powerful have been able to create loopholes within the law that it's not fair across the board. If you go if you go steal a loaf of bread, and the stealing a loaf of bread is illegal, then the same punishment that's bestowed on one should be bestowed on another.
You know what? They don't create
improving the justice system is
Latoya, listen to me. You're responding before you even know what.
We got you're responding, mother.
Latoya, listen. You're responding before you even know what my response is. They're not creating loopholes.
I was talking to Lauren about the justice system in the law.
My bad. I thought you were going at me because I'm shaking my head. No, I'm talking about tell Lauren.
No, I'm like, we know, like that's no beating a dead horse. We know the justice system is flawed, and people get different sentences based on race. Like that's proven. Yeah. That's receipts for that. We just sent somebody to executed somebody 2 weeks ago when clearly the witnesses came out and said that that person didn't do it, right? So we already know that the system is flawed.
Yeah. No, and it's always been like that. Now they do it, like I said, it's disproportionate for Black people, but they do it for they do it to everybody. It's not loopholes that they do. See, the rich and powerful just flat out violate it because they know they control basically everything. They control everything that goes on. They have everybody's politics.
That we can agree on.
Big tech guys, they have them in their pockets. They can control the narrative. They can control all different type of things. So all they do is, they don't have to jump through no loophole. It's just like even when you're talking about the Constitution. The Constitution, they drew it up. It's damn near, as far as the Bill of Rights, it's pretty much perfect when you're talking about securing people's rights. But it's like Minister Farrakhan said, them folks had their mind in the right place, but their heart was in the wrong place. They didn't have their heart didn't align with their mind, right? So it clearly says that just, equal opportunity, equal stuff for all. But then what about black people, right? They don't have to write white or black in, on law books. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go to a law book and see, oh, it protects, Trump supporters, but Biden supporters, nah. You're not going to see that. It's all about the person who administers the justice, the judges, the police officers, different things like that.
Again, we can agree on that. We can agree on that. Again, we can agree on that. But I don't want to let's just make sure we clear about what happened on Tuesday. It did come down to privilege and the disparity, and that's why people are mad. That's why a lot of people are angry. You have people who protested, who went to jail for sitting on a curb protesting or holding a sign. It went to jail for it, right? You had people who stormed the Capitol and did all kind of ungodly things inside the Capitol, and were told to go when you kind of find people, you are loved. But 6 months ago, these people were called all kind of names and just all kind of crazy stuff and throw the book at them. That is the issue to everybody. That's why everybody's angry and mad. Those are just the general things. We don't gotta get into semantics. Those are the general things why people are angry. And then that was another aha. Like George Floyd was an aha moment for people. This was another one. Clear as day. Another one about privilege.
But Latoya, this is why I don't want you to dwell. Hold on. This is why I don't want you to dwell on privilege, because there's different instances to where, and I don't want to even call it privilege, but take what's happening on social media.
We won't call it privilege. We'll call it societal norm.
Yeah, but it could be privilege.
But you said you didn't want to call it privilege.
Call a spade a spade. Call it what it is.
No, but you want to understand. This is what I'm saying. You don't know how these different things can be utilized. I'm saying it can get you to have these different reactions. Think about
what's the solution?
Think about how, let's use this for example.
That's a conversation for a new day.
Let's use the dichotomy of Donald Trump versus when they're talking about people who are causing insurrection, so to say. Let's not even talk about the reasoning or, if their reasoning is legitimate. Let's just talk about their different rules and what they have set in place without bringing up race, or whatever. Think about with Tamika Mallory, right? Think about Tamika Mallory versus what Donald Trump is doing when they're talking about censorship on these sites, right? But didn't Tamika Mallory clearly come out and push for insurrection? I'm not saying whether she's right or wrong or anything like that. Keep in mind, I'm talking about the precedent that she set. Didn't she push for insurrection?
What's the topic behind it, though? That's the topic behind it. You talking again, apples and hubcaps. We're talking about people storming the Capitol because their person lost. We're talking about people who a woman was murdered, sleep in her house. Of course, I mean, I think that calls for some type of insurrection. You storming the Capitol because your feelings are hurt and because your person lost. Come on. Different. It's not the same. The comparison is not the same. No,
I'm saying
I'm not giving everything. You can't have that. You can't have that. I get what you're trying to say about censorship.
No, listen to what I'm saying.
To incite violence and get people, and it's a private. It's not even like it's a private platform, so that company can do. That's like you going to work high.
Yes, I agree that. Yes, Latoya. If anybody agrees with that, I'll agree with that because I want people to have their private rights to do whatever they want when they own something privately. Because I'm the same one that said the government does not have the rights. These governors, according to law, don't have the rights to shut down businesses. They don't. And so we don't have the right. Nobody has the right to tell these private platforms what to do and who they want to kick off. They can change the goal.
Talking about COVID shutdowns?
Huh?
You talking about COVID shutdowns? You're
gonna say that's apples and hubcaps. I know you're gonna say that. We won't. You got to understand you got to understand the dichotomy if we can even be able to have these conversations.
Get what you're saying about trying to set a precedent, but like There are two different things why people are protesting. Like one is, I know, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again.
Not everybody that was protesting, not everybody that was there was for the same thing. Not everybody who was
which protest are we talking about?
Protesting for the same thing.
Which protest are we talking about?
Any protest, most of these protests, not everybody there is for the same thing.
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. That's like saying Antifa was the one who stormed the Capitol. Come on, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. Like was that relevant to the conversation that we're having? That's everywhere you go. That's like saying some people don't come to work. They come to It's like, what does that have to do with it? What does that have to do with it? Where are you going with it?
You're right.
I'm saying, where are you going with this?
You got to understand. People have their different things. Yeah. People have their different things that they fight for. They have their different things, whether they believe it. It's something that they believe in. You and I can agree that, okay, one holds a priority over the other. It's two different things. But that's their fight. It's the same thing with white folk. A lot of I'm generalizing, but I'm generalizing this situation. It's the same thing with a lot of white folks, a lot of Trump supporters. They may feel that the different things that Black people are fighting for, it's like, it doesn't matter to them. What their fight is prioritized. No matter what is right or wrong, you know what I'm saying? They still have their own views. They still have their own views. So they're still fighting for something that they believe in. They believe that, when they're talking about, a lot of them are there for
aggressively and physically. They went to aggressively and physically try to change the democratic process because their person lost.
Yeah, it's stupid.
That's why they went. So you cannot compare.
But it's stupid. I understand that, but it's what they believe, Latoya. That's all I'm trying to say. It's what they believe. It's stupid, and they deserve whatever outcome comes from it. Just like the lady that tried to jump through the window. She knew what was going to happen. She get popped. I hate that it happens, but you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? But
I gotta go, yeah.
It's still their belief.
Facts. I mean, I'll give you that. We can agree to disagree. I gotta go. Thanks for having me on. I will come on and argue anytime. I will come and go toe to toe.
It's not an argument. It's a conversation.
It's a debate. It's not an argument. We got to stop. We got to stop.
Debate.
I respect everything that you're saying. You have your views. I respect it, but these are the conversations that we have to have. It's going to have to come to that because what me and Lauren talked about is what I've been talking about for the longest. It's gonna, and I'm gonna let you.
I'm gonna let you go.
I'm gonna let you go. But what it's all gonna come to, when everybody's gonna realize, it's gonna come to people gonna have to separate. We're just gonna have to separate from our system that we have. People can keep trying to fight it from the inside. You can keep trying. It ain't gonna go nowhere. It's gonna come from separation. So then when the separation starts, now we got to have these conversations. It's going to take very layered conversations on how that even is able to be enacted. What things have to take place for that to make it, for it to make it happen. So
yeah, you gotta do that before the separation. Otherwise, the separation doesn't even have a point to it.
Yeah, it's going to come before the separation. But like I said, it's going to take people even realizing it takes a process for a person to even realize that it's going to take separation. Until then, we're going to keep putting our trust in, Donald Trump can get us. Donald Trump can save us. He's going to deliver us from this. Joe Biden's going to deliver us from this. And you're just going to be running on a treadmill, going nowhere fast. You know what I'm saying?
So Toya, before you go, and this can be a very, very quick answer, what should the consequences be for the individual protesters, and what consequence should there be, if any consequence, for Donald Trump?
Oh, consequence, whatever's already written in the law. They wrote those laws, and they even wrote more based on the social justice protests from the summer. So there's already stuff set up with what should happen to people. Donald Trump's a whole nother story. So I feel like he should same for him
But
too.
you
I mean,
do,
I don't
but
think anybody gets the pass.
Okay. So you do feel like there should be consequences. You aren't sure what they should be for him.
Yeah.
Right. It's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. This is a very nuanced, a very layered
and
conversation.
It's not an argument. It's a debate.
It's a very heated debate.
As you can see, we need some vino or some rosé. So we need some. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining. Thanks for your commentary.
Latoya,
very, very
valuable. Latoya, don't be mad at me.
We gotta talk about power. No, we gotta talk about power. We gotta talk about
Latoya.
next offline.
Hey, Latoya,
about power.
Don't be mad at me behind the scenes now.
I ain't gonna be mad. We gotta talk about power anyway.
So. All right, yeah, we gonna talk about it.
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
All right, bye, y'all.
Have a good night. Have a good night. Yeah, still here. Right. I feel you. I do. I feel you on multiple layers of what you're saying. I think that at the end of the day, we just need to address things specifically, because the more you bring different layers into the conversation, I think that's where it has a tendency to get challenging, because then people will start to rip your argument apart. So it extends the conversation to where you never actually deal with the situation.
But this is what I'm saying. We beat, outside of understanding what should happen, as far as what should be the punishment, different things. We've already made our place on how we feel about that particular situation. Now we can't beat everything with a dead horse, right? You beat. Sure. I mean,
you can't beat a dead horse.
You can't beat a dead horse. We're gonna keep talking about that same thing. Now you got to start getting into the layers of it, because most of the things that we talk about on this platform is dealing with public perception. Because then, just like you said, it's about how people respond to different information, and there should be responsibility. So this is one of the main things that we're trying to address, especially when you're talking about, you have all these media giants and different things that are filtering different information for their own agenda. And it's clear when you actually start thinking about what they're saying, it's like, well, that makes no damn sense right there. But it's right because they're they got the power to control the narrative. So what we're doing here is we got to attack the perception of how different things, play out. And that's where that starts to come in. So you got to have those different comparisons,
I believe in the comparisons. I wholeheartedly believe in the comparisons, but I think the thing about beating a dead horse is that the question you have to ask yourself, because what we are trying to do is our objective is to lead people down a path of intelligent understanding. I'm gonna use that phrase. We're trying to lead people down a path of intelligent understanding. And so what we have to do is we have to look at, okay, what are the viable solutions? And I think that's why this particular conversation was a great conversation.
But look at it like this.
To have that discussion.
Let's look at it like this, because this is an exact interpretation of what I'm saying. Let's say, you and Latoya are biologically two different beings, brother and sister, but you're a man, she's a woman, right?
Yes.
We'll make me the subject. Let's say, somebody's telling them, somebody's talking to you and they say, don't talk to Corey because he's lied to Latoya. This is real simple right here. He's lied to Latoya in the past, right? He continually lied to her. He did this and that. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk to him. Oh, he's presenting you with the same thing. He's trying to sell you the same product. He took Latoya's money when they tried to make a transaction. I wouldn't do business with him, even though y'all are two different people. You're Lauren Jones. That's Latoya Jones. Not two different people. The subject is still me. About Corey. That's all I'm saying. When you're talking about that, you have to even understand that part. That part has to be understood for it to, when you say we're talking about a thing at the Capitol and then talking about Vietnam, the subject is the government. We're talking about the same United States government, right? That's all I'm saying.
And I understand what you're saying, but we have to get to a point where so you talked about we probably just need to separate, right?
You said, yeah.
You said we probably just need to secede from the United States.
Yes, secession, decentralization is going to come to that. Yeah. It's going to come to that point.
So the question that you have to answer to everybody else that you want that, because you're saying that, you're basically saying you got to pick a side. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying. You're saying pick a side. You either got to succeed or you can keep putting up with the same BS, right?
Yeah.
So if I choose to succeed, what's going to be the solution? Like what will be different? Because we can talk about this is such a huge problem that we have a hard time getting past the problem. Like we talk so much about the problem because it's so big.
But listen
to
this.
Enormous.
But listen to this. These are why different things have to be picked up within the process. Because there's a lot of things, and that's a whole conversation. There's a lot of things that we know should happen, that are simple things that we know should happen when you're talking about creating infrastructure, when you're talking about secession and, getting the government, you're trying to quit from eating out of their palm. That means you got to do a lot of things yourself, right? But there's a lot of things that have to be picked up. That's why I talk about, we already know the Constitution, they're not going to honor that. That's been stomped on, spit on, kicked to the side. They wiping their ass with the Constitution. But an understanding of why it's there and and how a republic works and the positive aspects of how a republic works and how the Constitution works and how democracy can be usurped. That's what has to be understood before you can even, start a new society, or you're going to run into the same exact issue. Now the benefit is you're going to be dealing with a smaller government.
Sure.
You're going to be dealing with a smaller government, right? So and there's all type of different things, we do different trade agreements the same way the U.S. does trade agreements with other countries now. It could be like that for separate states. You know what I'm saying? But before we even get to that point, there's different things that have to be understood. But if we're going against those things, it's like we're just going to run into the same problems. There's no point. You might as well just stay within the U.S. You might as well stay. Might as well stay under the system that you're dealing with now.
I don't disagree with that. I will say that sometimes people will just follow you because it sounds different. Some people will just follow you because it's new.
And that's
honestly, that's a huge problem. But you can't. But are you going to knock the seller or are you going to knock the buyer?
You got to. I mean, there's responsibility on both, but a lot of it's on the buyer.
Ultimately, it's up to the buyer.
Yeah, it's on the buyer. That's just like businesses, especially when you're talking about dealing with a free market. You want to take somebody, it's like, we don't want to support this. So what do you stop doing? You stop buying.
Yeah. So I think we have to get to a point, and I won't even say it's Black people. I'm just gonna say it's people in general, where we do make that decision. We either make the decision. You have three choices. Most time you only have two. You have three choices. You can sit in the same bullshit that you've been sitting in. You know what I'm saying? You're used to it. You're halfway comfortable in it. You can decide to try to change the system in which you currently live in to make it better for a larger group of people, or you can just leave and go create your own system.
Yeah.
You got three choices, you know, and I think that, you know, when you look at, because with most people, you could say, you know what, I don't even care about what happened to the Capitol building. I'm about to roll and create my own country. I don't even care what happened. You know, you could say that and be done with the conversation.
Yeah.
You could say, or you could have the conversations like we're having, where you're saying, I can't fool with that. So I got to be a part of the change process. I want to be a change agent to make it better. How do I make it better? And you know, we again, we talk about the layers and peeling back the layers and layers and layers, and that's great from a point of understanding, to understand in some ways, not always, but in some ways, how to move forward. In other ways, you just have to move forward. That's just the skinny of what it is. You know, like when you talk about police brutality, that's probably something you need to have a nuanced conversation about. Because truth of the matter is that you're not gonna get the current police to be like, yeah, man, we just gonna lay down. We're gonna let y'all start over. Not gonna happen. For some of these people, it's an actual job. This is how I feed my family. You know, if nothing more than that, it's just that. Whereas certain things, you just have to say, you know what, I'm just gonna move on. I don't need to even talk about the problem. This is how we gonna fix it. You know, we know that the problem is, and you can do that with anything, but I think there's certain things that you have to do that about. You know, we talk a lot about racism and making sure that we don't make that the first finger point if that's not the first finger point.
Because it's hard to prove. Just like I say about when you talk about generalizations, you don't know what's in that person's mind. Even though you know there's a history of racism, you can't just jump to that within that particular situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too much
so
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so I think if we circle back to this point, we could talk about we can talk about white privilege. And I'm not going to tell you that there's not a layer of it here. I don't think it's the biggest or the thickest layer, but you could easily say it's a layer. But I think instead what you have to say is that people said just flat out no. I'm not going to say that I'm not done with the conversations. Basically, what all the people that stormed the Capitol building said, I'm not done with the conversation. We still need to talk about this. And by any means necessary, we're going to have this conversation. If I got to rip you off the podium in the middle of your doggone meeting, we're going to have a conversation before you bang the gavel and say we're done. That's what happened. Like that's what happened. That is essentially what happened. You can talk about other pieces of it, and those pieces have validity, but that's ultimately what happened. So with that being said, then the only thing you can do is prosecute under the eyes of the law. That's the only thing you can do. It don't matter if it's a black or a white issue. All you can do is prosecute under the eyes of the law at the end of the day. And so that's what needs to happen to as many people as they can find that played a role in this, you know, prosecute them under the eyes of the law, whatever that is. And what I really, really, when you talk about law and logic and things like that, and this is where I almost say you can't even fight with the system that's currently in place, is it can't be about money. It can't be about power. This is the law. This is how we prosecute. End of discussion. End of discussion. I don't care if you make $50 an hour. I don't care if you make $5 an hour. This is the law. This is how we prosecute. You don't get to come in and flash your money in front of my face and be like, oh, so you want me to figure out a workaround for you?
But
okay.
But you know what?
But then you get rid of defense attorneys at that point.
But you know, even with it's defense attorneys, you know, works on both sides, and the reality is that's never going to change.
And that's what I'm saying.
The whole system was rigged from the start. Even when you talk about where black people were put, there has to be a bottom caste system
always.
It has to be a bottom caste system. That's how, when you talk about Ponzi schemes, there has to be somebody at the bottom at every time to make the money come back up.
Sure.
That's how money itself works. When you're talking about dealing with a privately owned organization like the Federal Reserve, they're a mob. They're crooks. They're not part of the federal government. There's nothing federal about it. But it's a Ponzi scheme, and black people were put there to be a permanent bottom class. So no matter how much money gets pumped into society, all that's going to do is create inflation, and your dollar that you're receiving loses the value. And so you can have $100,000, but because all your money's lost value, you're still at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You're still at the bottom. So that's all that is, man.
No, I totally agree.
It's rigged from the start. And
do you feel like that Trump should be prosecuted?
What for what happened at the Capitol?
Yes, sir.
No.
Because he wasn't there.
He didn't. How would it be? Well, how would it be on him? Because think about the precedent that sets. We know what's happened for people, and like I've always said, the Republican Party is almost a damn near bridge to the Libertarian Party. But people can't leave Libertarian Party because the Republican keeps pulling stupid stunts like this and falling into these different holes to where people just turn around and they go the other way back to Democrat, because Democrat is the feel-good party and they're positioned as the people who are the good guys. But think about the precedent that it sets, when you have a real person who's about revolution and they're talking about the right things. Exactly why you don't see, Ron Paul got banned too. He didn't say nothing. Think about all the times high impact flicks, high impact TV on YouTube continues to get strikes on his channel. And he says nothing. He says nothing wrong. Everything he says can be verified. All he's doing is teaching, but they don't want that. They have an agenda that they're trying to do. So what type of you
already know, I know.
Right. So what type of precedent does it set when you have somebody that comes in and they start, we're gonna go here and we're gonna fight the power, you know what I'm saying, and different things like that. And the people decide to take it a whole nother way against what he said. You can't control what these people do. When they decide to take it their way and it turns into a war and people, cops or whatever end up getting killed and stuff like that. Is it on that person who said, who laid out what the issue was? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I understand what you're saying.
It sets a precedent, man. It sets a precedent. So no,
I respect the thought. I respect the thought. He wasn't an active participant, therefore there's no punishment that you.
He didn't go out and say. He didn't go out and say.
Even if he did, he contradicted himself by then coming back and saying, "Hey, y'all need to stop." Yeah. I get it.
He didn't go out and say tear this up. He didn't say, do this and that, but it's like, to me.
Actually did, but he just still was an active participant. He
said word for word, tear up the Capitol. Tear up the Capitol, break into the Capitol. You're gonna have to show me that.
I don't think he said that, but
right, that's what I'm saying.
But he did incite violence. I'm not even gonna act like he incited that people should create an issue. It's now that's why I said you gotta throw it back on the individuals. I agree. I understand.
Because there's a whole entire gray area. For instance, you could all of a sudden start saying that the other side is inciting violence because you don't think the people are watching the news and they say, well, that's hypocrisy. That's bullshit what you just said. You're allowing this to happen on this side, but you're not letting us do the same thing. and people get fired up. That stuff like that incites violence. You know what I'm saying? Censorship, no matter if it's through a private business or whether the government's doing it. We do know that all these social media sites have contracts with the federal government. You go look that right up. They're in contracts with the federal government, so they have influence. And when you start telling all the big tech guys where everything is at, remove this thing, remove that from, you have Amazon, 3 different entities cooperating with each other. You think that's not going to make the people who are, the people who are being censored, you think that's not going to incite something? If anything, that'll incite something even more. That's just going to cause more division and more. And like I said, that doesn't mean that they should do it. And if they get prosecuted, they go out and decide, hey, we're being censored, and they go shoot somebody, they deserve to be prosecuted. But it's still, when you talk about incite, there's many things that can incite something. Sure. That's all I'm trying to, that's all I'm trying.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. That's how people create loopholes. The fight is they understand language.
What's happening right now is like, that's what I was trying to convey to Latoya and also Craig in the comment section, is we let our emotions, we're too emotion based and we're leading with emotions, and we're not fighting, we're not playing a chess game. So we're not even hearing that part. We're not even able to get to and arrive to that point to understand that, because we want it to be our way. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I understand. I understand your logic and your.
We gotta stop. We gotta stop leading with emotion.
Lead with logic and leave the emotion at the door. Is what you're saying.
We'll dig more into this later.
I love it.
We're going almost 2 hours now.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. But that's ultimately what it's gonna take. I'll be happy for the day when people are comfortable being around each other, because it's gonna take us in one room sometimes. Having these conversations and setting agendas and things like that. So no, I appreciate it. I love the dialogue. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Somebody would pay me to do it. Hey, if y'all wanna send me some money so I can quit my job and just have these debates all the time, I take your money.
All right, man. We about to slide up out of here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Stay tuned. Subscribe to the Word on the App. Hit the notification bell. It'll let you know whenever we pop up. With different news or notifications whenever we'll go live again. And hit us up if you want to join the discussion. If you disagree or anything, our door is always open. We want to have the conversation. This is not an argument. These debates have to be had. Stuff has to be understood, because if not, like I said, you're just gonna be running in place, going fast and going nowhere. But as long as you feel good, as long as those corporations, those guys on your television make you feel good, I guess that's what it's all about in the end, right? Hey, we out. Peace.